Jeremy, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on the show here, and good to see your faces. Um, I know we've spoken a few times. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your business, and we can
Nice
dive
to see
right
you, my
into
man.
it.
Sure, of course. Nice to see you. I appreciate it. A little bit about me and my business. I'm a model and actor, currently
All right.
unemployed. Right,
I,
exactly.
I recognize you from a
You
magazine.
you didn't because I've been in nothing. Right? I have no jump shot. American Idol won't let me on, so what are you gonna do, right? So, name's Jeremy Hill. Currently live in Paradise Valley, Arizona. I spent the last almost 30 years in Seattle. I run a company called JB Capital. I am the J and the B. I guess not that creative. Like to tell people it stands for James Bond. It doesn't. It's my initials, but JB Capital has been in specialty finance for about 25 years now. We started as kind of a lower middle market investment bank. So companies, projects, builders, developers would hire us to go solve problems. Most of those problems had something to do with money. Your banker and your rich uncle won't call you back, so now you're stuck talking to me, right? And so we got really, really good at kind of turning the dials of the Rubik's cube and helping people out. Our business has evolved just like everybody, right? You kind of grow, and where it is that you were maybe 5 or 10 years ago is not where you are today, and you kind of just like Matthew McConaughey says, take those green lights. And so our business today is still focused on alternatives and private investments. It's primarily focused on private credit. So we structure private credit deals for growing builders and developers through the country, primarily in multifamily. And then we have a corporate credit side that we finance and provide capital and guidance it is to these kind of growing software and technology enabled services businesses. So that's us, man.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty interesting business, and private credit's all the rage right now, isn't it? Because
It
banks
is.
banks are pretty tight with their lending.
Yeah, I mean, there has always been a need for alternative capital. Define that as you will, right? Private equity,
Hmm.
private credit, old rich guy money, country club money. Something that's non-bank. Like that's been around, longer than you and me, right?
Yep.
Um, Private credit is definitely in its beginning stages of its kind of 20-year bull run heyday, like where we saw private equity, 20, 25 years ago. This is kind of that first 1 to 2 years of that last 25 years of growth of private equity. This is that kind of first 1 to 2 years of what it is that we're seeing for this big bull run, I think, in private credit. Um, you have a couple of reasons why. Again, if we get into that a little bit, and it's just like you said, right? It's the banks are getting a little bit tighter or a lot tighter. The increase in interest rates is not helping. And so, normal Main Street kind of guys, whether you're building a husband wife business, a contracting business, a software business, whatever it is that happens to be, that access to capital is a little bit tighter,
Hmm.
right? Banks are famous for the I'll give you an umbrella when it's sunny and take it back when it's raining,
Yeah.
right? They're really good at loaning money to people who don't need to borrow it.
Yeah.
And so for the rest of us folks,
Yeah.
there's something different there. It is that actually needs to happen, and how you get access to capital is really what's driving a lot of this growth in kind of private credit is the need for differentiated capital.
Mhm.
So we've been playing a part of that for a long, long time, and hope to continue to do so.
So why would you say that private credit, might be or is an avenue for a lot of mom and pops who otherwise should be going to a bank, and so why is that? And then why is private credit willing to take risk where the banks won't?
Yeah. So for Main Street mom and pop type business, why are they looking at private credit? Now, again, in private credit, you think about there's 100 different flavors of vanilla ice cream. So there's a
Mhm.
thousand different ways to slice this, right? Um, but private credit, I'm going to use that nomenclature there for just non-bank financing.
Mhm.
So the reason why it is that guys are heading there is number one, banks are kind of retreating a little bit. They're pulling back. They're becoming less conservative. The interest rates are going up, and so it's harder for them to justify loaning money out at 7 and 8% right now in the market when risk-free capital is 5.5. So
Mhm.
right now they're really excited about deposits and really don't give a shit about lending. Well, that's good for them, but how about the rest of us that are trying
Yeah.
to, open a new market or hire new employees or do whatever? Banks will tend to lend on SBA not lend, they will tend to lean on SBA financing
Mhm.
because the Small Business Administration provides an additional degree of security for bank of whoever, right? Tony and Jeremy come to him and say, hey, we've got this business that we want to grow or expand or do or whatever it is. Um, a lot of times for small businesses, the banks will kind of try to push you towards the SBA. And they do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're marketing it to you that, hey, this is a really great program and so on and so forth. We only need, a personal guarantee, second mortgage on your house, and pictures of your wife and kids, right? But trust me, dude, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
The SBA can work. Um, the little thing it is, it's known as the banks are pushing you that way because that bank gets roughly about 80% of an insurance guarantee based upon their loan. So if they're loaning you and I out $100, the SBA is going to insure $80 of that, 80% of that in a
Mhm.
loss should you and I screw the whole thing up or lose money, whatever it is. So they're mitigating their risk. The other thing is it's about 3 times the amount of fee income for the bank to push you towards an SBA loan versus them just doing it on balance sheet. So it is rather self-serving for the bank to push you that way. SBA can be good, long-term, low cost of
Mhm.
capital, but it's got a little bit higher barrier to entry. It is for people that need a balance sheet or otherwise, or kind of sound economics in their business to justify being able to do so. And that's candidly just not everybody, right?
Mhm.
So the reason why it is that private credit is kind of stepping in and why we would take risks it is that a bank wouldn't is a couple things. There is a risk premium to that. Like I'm not going to loan you money at 6 or 7 or 8%. I'm going to loan you money at 14 to 20%, right?
Mhm.
So there's a risk premium it is that I am earning or taking because I'm willing to do something that that guy isn't, right?
All right. So backing up, I mean, how'd you get into this world?
I wish I wish I could say that it, was like a master plan and I went to a good school and got good grades and now I've got a Jeep Cherokee and a wife and a house with a picket fence and a fucking
Yeah.
golden retriever or something. But it's not, right? It's
Well, you're
not.
living in Paradise Valley,
And
so.
I am living in Paradise Valley, so that part's okay. But the rest of this stuff, just like most people, is that you're kind of going and going and growing
Mhm.
and evolving and this kind of thing. So the business originally started because I got asked by a builder developer. It is to help him see if I could help him raise money for a project.
Mhm.
I was in real estate at the time, really enjoyed the business, but I felt like one
So
of
is it
many.
residential real estate?
Yeah, residential real estate and
Okay.
brokerage and that kind of thing. This is 26, 7 years ago, something like
Mhm.
that, and 25 years ago. And liked that part of the business, but I felt like I was one of another, 30,000 people in the state of Washington do it, and everybody's smarter than the other guy. And I was bored with that quickly. Um, was a good business, just not the business I wanted to be in. And I was meeting with a developer one time, and he starts telling me about his next project and says, "Hey, I'm going to, go with so and so to list the project." And I was like, "Awesome, they'll do great for you." And I wasn't really interested in listing your business.
Mhm.
Well, what are you here for? Like, man, you're good people. I heard you were good people. We got friends in common. I like meeting good people. Just wanted to learn more about you, grab a cup of coffee, and hear your story. Well, so
Mhm.
now we're friends. Like I'm not there on the hustle.
Yeah.
So he's telling me about one of his next projects, and he goes, here's what we're doing, and so on and so forth. And I asked him, well, just dumb, like, where did the money come from to do this stuff? Like, wealthy family, or like, how does this whole thing work? And he goes, well, we have some of our own money we're putting in here, and the banks are giving us this. And I'm like, well, you got a hold, dude. Like, so where's the rest of that capital come from? And he goes, oh, well, we have guys in the community and investors that we work with that like to participate in our projects and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, do you want help with that? He's like, well, do you think you can help? I was like, shit, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Tell me about the project. Show me kind of what it
Yeah.
is you're doing. Let me make some calls. Let me see what I can do for you. And so I raised a guy like 5 or 600,000 bucks in about 30 or 45 days. And I was like, okay, just helping out my buddy. Didn't charge him anything. Didn't
Mhm.
even know you were supposed to. It
Yeah.
was just like, okay, cool, that was fun. About 3 or 4 weeks later, I get a call from one of his buddies, Dan, and Dan calls and says, "Hey, Jeff told me that you helped him out with this project. It does. I've got this deal that I'm working on. You want to come take a look?" Sure. Sit down, meet. Now I got
Yeah.
another new friend, and he kind of tells me, walks me through this whole thing, and he's like, "Okay, well, so how do you think this should look?" And I'm like, "Well, from my 2 weeks experience, big
Yeah.
boy, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, here's what we did over here, so probably something like that." And he goes, "Okay, well, um, let me give you some stuff. Do you think you can help?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, let me see what I can do." And he goes, "So what do you charge, by the way?" Charge? Like, I'm fucking Mother Teresa. I'm like, charge? I don't. Well, so I'm thinking, well, real estate guys charge 3%. We charge 3%. And he goes, okay, on the capital raise? Yeah, that sounds good. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Cool. You have a contract or something you can send over? Sure, I do. Of course I do. Oh, look at me, right? Yeah, of course I do. I'll send that over to you later today, right? We shake hands, we're leaving. And he goes, hey, what's the name of the company, by the way? Son of a bitch. It's called JB Capital.
Yeah.
Jeremy, my nickname's JB. I said, it's called JB Capital. And he goes, I think I heard of you guys. I was like, yeah, of course you have. You know, shake hands, get right. So I get in the car, I drive off, I call my attorney, and I'm like, I think I just started a business. And he goes, sweet, tell me about it. And I kind of tell him the story, and he goes, dude, do you have any idea what you're doing? I'm like, yeah, kind of. And I said, but I need an agreement today, and it's got to say this because this is what I
Yeah.
told the guy. And please go start a company and make sure it's called JB Capital. And like, so that's how that started to go. And that was like almost a billion in transactions ago.
Wow.
And so it doesn't have to be like perfect or planned or organized or whatever. Sometimes things just kind of evolve and go. And that was the end of 2002. And so it is a cool but beautifully imperfect story.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing because we had another guy on the show didn't have experience on what he was about to embark on, but he had the the basic knowledge of the industry.
Yeah.
I think what helped you is you had some knowledge of real estate. It's just this was this new piece that you had an interest in and you wanted to learn. I think it's forgotten these days that if you find somebody that wants to learn, maybe take him up on that
Yeah.
because uh,
Agreed.
and because there's a lot of barriers to entry these days, especially with these new grads looking for a job. They got to go send out their resume, whatnot. But then there's that gatekeeper on the other side that says, "Well, I don't know," you know.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to sound like the old man, but like kids today are soft,
Yeah,
right? Like when you're talking to these guys that are coming out of school and they're like, I sent out a bunch of applications and then I just sit here and meditate over my phone and my computer and wait for it to ring or show up. I'm like, no wonder you're fucking unemployed, right? Like it, like I never did that
right.
ever. Like even when we were
What,
broke and trying to find a job. And
what was your
so,
first job out of college?
so first off, I dropped out of college.
Okay.
I dropped out between my junior and senior year. Found this hot chick, convinced her to marry me, told me,
Yeah.
stick with me, baby, it's gonna be good, you know. And she's still sticking around, waiting for waiting for it to be good. But didn't end up finishing college.
uh,
Only person in my family that doesn't have at least one or two degrees.
why was that?
What's that?
Why'd you drop out?
Um, I don't. At some point it became more important to me to be with Christine, who's now my wife,
Okay.
than to go down a path that I thought that I was supposed to go down, but didn't know
Mhm.
if I was sold on. Because I was going through undergrad and pre med because I wanted to become a doctor.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if I necessarily wanted to actually be a doctor,
Hmm.
but when I was growing up, um, anytime it is that I was out with my parents or my grandparents, and you'd see somebody when you were out to lunch or out to dinner, or we grew up in a small town in Texas, and so you'd go to the country club and have Sunday brunch and play golf and that
Hmm.
kind of a thing. Anytime it was there, it was, oh, that's so and so, he's a doctor. Oh God, man, so and so's daughter is cute. Oh yeah, she's really cute. Her dad's a doctor. Or we'd
Uh,
look at, go look at houses, and my grandfather would always want to go look at new Cadillacs on Sunday after church and stuff
yeah.
like that. And it was always, the nice house, the nice car, the cute daughter, the respected guy in the community, the this, that, and the other thing. When I grow up, oh, that guy's a doctor, that guy's a doctor. So I really liked math and really liked science and really liked all of those things. And I was a Jacques Cousteau nerd when I was a kid.
Uh,
I loved that son of a bitch, right? And so a lot of that stuff kind of evolved to, maybe I should go be a doctor. I don't know if I want to be a doctor, but I want people to talk about me
mhm.
the way that I saw people in the community talk about or respect or like or appreciate, Joe the doctor. And that was attractive to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if the practice of medicine was necessarily attractive to me, but being someone in the community, it is that you feel like it is that you're gaining or earning or doing something of respect. That was attractive to me, and so that was the path. Um, when I met my wife, nothing else mattered at the time, and
Mhm.
still than wanting to be with her. And I started getting more and more interested in uh, other ways it is to have influence or be involved in the community and have an impact on the community and these businesses and otherwise it is that didn't involve that, and the path just went the way it went.
Mhm.
We started our first business together. It is before we were married. We started a little wireless phone business in 1995.
Oh,
1995.
okay. Like an
Because
authorized reseller.
we're in Seattle. We were what's called a master agent at the time. So
Okay.
way back in the day, and you're in Seattle, right? You remember way back in the day, it was AirTouch before it
Mhm.
became Verizon. There was a voice stream before it became T-Mobile, right? Um, uh,
There's what's that? Macaw Cellular.
yeah, there was Macaw that became AT&T. You had Nextel, all Virgin, all this stuff came out of Seattle. It is and was growing, and so we were a master agent at the time. That was basically an unemployed sales force for these guys as they were kind of growing and developing their business, and we did real well. It was me and a partner, and then it was me and a partner, and plus five, plus 10, plus 50, plus 60, plus about 70 guys, and we were hustling and selling cell phones, and it was a cool, good little business, right? Um, wasn't scalable, wasn't something it is that you were ever going to sell. It wasn't something the way it is that we had structured that you were going to, get rich or anything like that. But it was a good little entrepreneurial hustle type business and
Hmm.
really enjoyed it
And how
until
did
I
that
did.
transition into
That
residential real
that
estate?
transition at the time really transitioned out of that on the fact it is that my wife and I had gotten married. We were getting more serious. I felt like this weirdo wild and kind of journey it is that we were going on with all these hustler guys that were entrepreneurs that were half were doing real estate, half were doing mortgage, half were doing cell
Yeah.
phones, right, and now I'm sure they're all crypto experts or right, whatever, right,
Yeah.
but
Now that it's crypto, it's
yeah,
it's
yeah, right, totally. And but that journey you're going through, that we got married, we're starting to grow, we're starting to talk about do we want to have kids or not, and it was like I should maybe get a real job, like I should, like I got a wife now, like
Mhm.
we should probably get insurance. Like I should do some grown up shit. I should get one of those little badges on my thing that gets me in the door in the building. I
Yeah.
should. Um, and so I sold my interest to my partner and moved on. Um, and then I found out I'm a really shitty employee. Right? Like it. I think there's a period of time I had 13 jobs in 3 years,
Hmm.
and it came home and my wife was like, "You're like not good at this." Not 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 good at it. You're great at it. It just you don't want to do it. There's nothing there for you.
Right.
And so the last job it is that I had in Seattle before it is I got into the real estate business, um, I just wanted out of. They had a tendency to always bring somebody from the outside in,
Hmm.
and so I was kind of number one sales guy, development guy in the business, and was growing and doing well. But anytime it is that there was an opportunity for a VP of sales, they would never promote somebody from within. They would always hire John from some other company to come in. He'd last 4 months, then he'd quit or get fired, and then they'd, oh well, he wasn't the right guy. Bob from whoever, right?
Yeah.
Look, you've had guys that have been here a year, two, three, four, five. Like, why are you not growing up these people? You're always bringing somebody from without, and I took it personal. Um, so after a couple of times of that happening, I was like, I got to do something else. And then
Hmm.
that's when this kind of thing of real estate, in the early 2000s, you didn't have to be that smart or that good looking to make money in real estate.
Hmm.
My top two qualifications, right? Here I go, right? And just started really working and hustling and doing on that and just really enjoyed it. And that kind of evolved into, less from a brokerage and a sales standpoint, more in a capital and capitalization, capital
Hmm.
formation standpoint, and then just got really, really interested in that. Right? It was a differentiated approach to solving the same problem.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And the thing about the business today, and I think a lot of people in their businesses or their jobs today get tired because you're doing the same shit every day,
Yeah.
and that. no matter what you're doing, no matter how much money you're making, no matter how good you are at it, that routine can get old or can get stale or can make
Hmm.
you uninspired. And
Yeah.
the thing right now that I have for the last 15 20 years really loved about this business is that every day I am looking at um, a similar problem but a different business.
Yeah.
Right today, you're looking at a whiskey company that's trying to grow and get additional distribution. And tomorrow it's a technology and a software business. And then later today, it's a new real estate development in Paradise Valley. It is that
Hmm.
needs capitalization, formation, and structure. And how do you bring in the right guys and how do you mitigate risk and that kind of a thing. And so, even though we're solving a similar kind of financial and structuring and how do you put these partnerships together and mitigate risk and make sure everybody's okay and that kind
Hmm.
of a thing, the underlying asset or the underlying company is different every day and multiple times a day, and
Yeah.
that's what keeps the intrigue there. And that about the business I love.
Yeah. And it's a scalable business, and quite frankly, you're getting a MBA every day, right?
Yeah,
Because the MBA program it's a case study, and each day you're presented with a different case that you could solve, but the basic principles are practically the same.
yeah, well said, well
Yeah.
said.
So I know you got your son's in college, right? I mean, what
Yeah,
kind of advice are you giving him, and how far out is he from graduating?
yeah. So it's interesting. My wife and I have three kids. So
Mhm.
we have 23, 20, 17, boy, girl, boy. So my eldest is in the last little bit of his senior year of business school at ASU, at WP Carey at ASU.
Mhm.
Um, and then my daughter is going into her sophomore year at the business school as well. And then my son's going to be a junior in high school. And so for my oldest son and my daughter and all of our kids, the things it is that we're kind of building towards and coaching towards for them is that, your university education, whether it is that you decide to do it or not. And
Mhm.
in our family, you're not required to do that. You don't have to do that. You have to do something, right? Like you're not going to not go to school and play Xbox all day. Like
Yeah.
that ain't happening. But if that typical higher education, secondary education path is not for you, that's okay.
Mhm.
And so the plan though for all of them right now is really what it is that I want you to do is I want you to go to university and study what it is that you want to study. And when you get out of school, I want you to work as hard as you can. I want you to make as much money as you can. I want you to make as many connections as you can. I want you to have as many experiences as you can. And I want you to say yes. So if you have the opportunity a year or two out of school, somebody offers you a job in Nashville, take it, go.
Mhm.
And if you're in Nashville and a year later there's a new office opening in New York and they offer you a position to go to New York or London, say yes, go. And for that, 5, 6, 7 years right out of university, it's collect those experiences, do as much as you can, that, right? And then at kind of 27, 28, 29 years old, I want you to come back to the family, bring time, money, circumstance, connections, collections, experience, and what it is that you think, where it is that you see opportunity. Bring that back to the family. We'll capitalize that business and you'll run it. Because for the next 50 years, why would I want my kids building somebody else's business or
Mhm.
building their family's business or building whatever it is? Come back and make sure it is that everything it is that I do is serving my wife and all of my kids. And then when my son is done and he's doing that everything it is that he's doing is serving himself, his wife, his kids, his parents, his brothers, his sisters, and that kind of a thing. And let's keep that family dynamic the way it is.
Mhm.
Like Getty, Gates, DuPont, Kellogg, Hearst. Like the Hearst kids weren't working at fucking McDonald's up the street,
Yeah.
right? Like they're doing stuff it is that serves the family's business. And so that is our plan. And so for my son right now, so he should have graduated this basically right now. He's going to graduate in the fall. He
Mhm.
transferred schools from a school in Seattle to the business school down here, and they had two of his classes that they didn't allow him to transfer. So he's having to
Uh,
retake those in the fall. So it's just kind of a weirdo deal. But he'll graduate coming up. He is getting a finance degree with kind of an underpinning in real estate. So he's studying finance, capital markets, and capitalization as
mhm.
that kind of intersects with real estate. So part of him wants to really study kind of development and how things it is are
Mhm.
doing, and understanding the financing it is that supports that. And so my guess is that he'll end up at at a developer or a large commercial real
Yeah.
estate group for the next 3, 4, 5 years or something like that, and then come back and hopefully I can afford it. So, and then my daughter,
He's gonna hand you over. This is what I
oh,
want.
5 years from now, I'm going to be bringing home coffee, you know? So, and then my daughter's going into her sophomore year. She just
Mm,
finished her freshman year. And she and I've had some really serious talks about her not finishing school.
mm,
Um, and she's got a great argument for it. And I'm okay with that. Like, I don't think anymore, I think the majority of people have gotten past the point of disconnection, saying it is that I'm going to go to a school for 4 years, spend $100,000 and come out, and then I'm going to do what?
yeah.
Right? Like, if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or something, like, yeah, of course, dude, you need to go to
Yeah.
school.
It's very specific.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, I'm all for that. But if that is not your path, if your path is, maybe even finance, or your path is real estate, or your path is marketing or communication, or you want to start a small business, or you want to own whatever it is, like, you don't necessarily need to do that.
Mhm.
Um, and you don't need to take on that debt. Like, I'm people are not coming to the degree of actualization yet to understand the fact it is that colleges are a business first and an education standpoint second.
Yeah.
The business aspect of it is good for them and shitty for you and me, and it's starting to get to the point with all the educational crap it is that they're pushing that I'm not sure the education is worth it.
Yeah.
And so I would rather have more of an influence over what it is that my kids are learning and the path it is that they're going down, not only because I'm not sure that um, it financially makes sense, but even for the education side, my daughter is really frustrated with the crap that she's having to study before she actually gets to the point to where
Hmm.
she can study what it is that she wants to study,
Yeah.
right? So it'll be interesting to see how that stuff evolves.
Big shout out and a huge thank you to Zekin for making this happen. They have an amazing platform. Check out their website, zeacon.com, zeacon.com. I think that's amazing what you're doing for your kids and kind of the philosophy, but also I think it's impressive that they have an understanding of at some point you got to figure out how to bring it back to the family so that the family is served.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
do you find that a lot of the folks you meet who come from wealthy families or building a wealthy family, do you find that that's the mindset is to instill in your kids is think about the family?
no,
No.
unfortunately, I mean, it's definitely less than half.
Mm,
A lot of and I know that you run in a lot of the same circles and meet a bunch of these guys. There's a lot of people that have had an extraordinary wealth that's not generational, right?
yep.
Mom and dad built a company, sold it, made 10, 100, 20, whatever, made a gobsmack of money. It is the Most of them have dysfunctional kids, or dysfunctional marriages. They're on marriage number 4, girlfriend number
Hmm.
3, what, right? And that isn't what it is that we want to do. Like, um, we're due. So Q1, we had our first kind of family board meeting, talking about here's
Hmm.
what's going on in the businesses, here's what the plan is for everybody, here's this. Let's answer questions, walk through an example, and I did like a board presentation. It is to my wife and kids.
Uh-huh.
We had a family meeting last night just about what's going on in the summer. Spent an hour with the kids, talk through some things it is that are going on in the house that we want to make sure it is continue to happen, and some things that we don't want to continue to happen. Um, and we do that, and then we're up for a board meeting. It is, I think, first week in July.
Hmm.
But that is to here's the path it is that we're going down. Here's what it is that we're doing. We're putting all of our assets into a trust that the family owns. And so, like all of our cars, our house here in Paradise Valley, the stuff it is that we're doing, Christine and I don't own anything. The trust owns it, and our kids are
Hmm.
directors, and so are we the trust. So my kids can drive any one of the cars it is that you drive.
All
It's
right.
not my son's car. It's not my wife's car. It's not my car. Great. Drive whatever the hell you want to drive. But realize if you scratch the car, you're not scratching your car, you're scratching all of our cars.
Yeah.
So all of us are going to whoop your ass, right? So, like, there's little things like that. It is to
Yeah.
get them to learn a practice of thinking about the whole of the family rather than the
Hmm.
individual of the person. Um, and
Which
that's been really good for us, I think.
how did you take on that philosophy, or what influenced you to bring that to your own family?
It's a great question. Um, I can't pinpoint anything. Like there's not
Mm.
a, it was a Tuesday night. It was raining outside. Like
Enjoying a glass of whiskey.
glass of, like there's nothing like that. But um, one of my one of my favorite things. There's a show on the History Channel. It is that I've seen probably 10 times. That probably each of my kids has now seen 3 times. It's called "The Men Who Built America," and it
Wow.
goes through this kind of the starting of the country to where it is that you've got Carnegie and Rockefeller and J.P.
Mhm.
Morgan Chase and these guys it is, and how it is that this kind of just foundational aspects of the business it is came together, and kind of heirs apparent and how people are competing and this kind of a thing, and it just gets you to thinking it is that there are legacy families it is today that are still doing well based upon what it is that their father or their father's father or their father's father's father did 100 years ago. And I think the challenge it is that we see with the most of us is most of us are working, doing whatever we're doing, and we're working hard. And some do well, and some do okay, and some scrape by, and some do really, really well, and whatever it is, it is. But for some reason, it is there is not this kind of torch passing. It is that happens both for
Mhm.
financial security, information, thought, um, and kind of a respect for your family, right? There is this
Yep.
thing to where it is that it seems like every generation kind of starts from zero. And ideally, our kids should start from where we left off,
Yep.
right? Like we should put our kids on our shoulders so they can see shit that we can't see, right? And so what it is that my wife and I are trying to do is build something it is that we can get to a point that as we're bringing our kids with us when we get tired, when we get old, when we die, and that kind of a thing, they can continue to push that deal forward. And now they're bringing their kids with them, and it just kind of continues to grow and evolve. And some days I think I'm doing a better job of that than others.
Hmm.
And the last week or two, I've been doing a good job of that. And the couple months before that, I felt like I was doing a pretty shitty job. But it's still just making sure it is that we're continuing on that path, that we're doing something it is that outlives us. I hope.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, man. Because I see it in just in my line of work, and just the mindset is it's not so much about what can I do for the next generation. It's I need to figure out this generation, and my kids can go figure it out,
Yeah,
right? And with the advent of AI and everything else that's going on, it's gonna be a lot tougher. Yeah.
yeah, it is. I mean, a lot of things are accelerating quicker, I think, than we realize, and it's not all for good. And
Yeah.
it's definitely making that kind of first job out of school harder, and it may actually be making that first job out of school non-existent.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the kind of elementary, not elementary is not the wrong word, but these kind of first jobs and primary jobs that come out that get you to a point to where you're more established and you can go and do whatever and eventually kind of grow and compound upon that. A lot of those entry level is the wrong word, but kind of early career type jobs are being automated. And so if you think about what's happened in the last year with Chat GPT and Open AI
Mhm.
and some of the next evolutions of that it is that are still coming, think about if you started. I mean, this has all been in what, the last 12 to 15 months ish.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so think about your kid 3 years ago that you're $80,000 deep in three or his 4 years of a computer science degree.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
right? And or what about a content writer? What about a marketing and communication guy? Right? Like, I mean, you've seen the stuff it is that these guys can do that if you understand how to actually direct and prompt some of the stuff at AI, you can get a better output based upon how it is that
Mhm.
you're characterizing the input to drive that. What do I need like a $50,000 marketing guy to write content for me?
Yeah.
Like it. So what I think and what we've been talking about as a family and what I've been reading more and more about is I think it is that we're really going to have this kind of resurgence of blue collar America coming back
Yeah.
because AI is not going to fix my fucking toilet. And you're going to see, because you're even seeing on a larger scale private equity move into this, to where private equity is now kind of buying, building, growing, and consolidating, electrician companies and
HVAC.
HVAC guys and stuff like this. It is right, and so private equity has a tendency to ruin everything. So, but the reality is us coming back to something it is that you can you can bring technology and efficiency into, but it's still a get your hands dirty
Hmm.
type of business. Like I did a post on LinkedIn the other day. I saw this guy that had a hat that said "Dirty Hands, Clean Money."
Yeah, I
And
saw that.
I was like,
That was a
that's
good
cool, man.
post.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's moving back. And the reality is that um, that doesn't require 100 grand in a university education. Like one of the biggest proponents of that for a decade has been Mike Rowe. Seen Mike
Hmm.
Rowe from Dirty Jobs.
Yep.
Dude, that guy's
Yep.
a genius. I mean, he's himself is amazing, but there's a new show after Dirty Jobs that started something else that's talking about that kind of growth in blue collar. It's pretty cool. Excuse me.
Yeah, I had a buddy that decided to go the electrical union route
Mhm.
versus computer science
Yeah,
because he thought to himself that these computer guys still need somebody to wire their
totally.
servers.
Yep.
And, his salary at a construction company compared to the electrician, or sorry, the computer programmer, is a lot more.
Yeah.
And he's at a job site all day just directing people to wire stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
And those businesses, those businesses like that will continue to evolve, but I don't see that going away.
mhm.
You know, I don't see that going away.
So you don't see a robot coming into a job site and
I mean,
doing
there'll
what?
be no. I mean, you, those businesses are going to evolve with technology that they're going to
Mhm.
simplify and make those businesses a little bit more efficient. But there's not going to be a you know who knows 100 years from now maybe, but there's not going to be a robot fucking putting steel up, framing a
Yeah.
house, putting a roof on. There's you're seeing a big surge in business right now for real estate tech and prop tech and
Mhm.
education tech and that kind of a thing. So technology coming into those businesses. But I don't think it is that we're going to move to a point to where it is that, I'm going to have a little Amazon robot show up. It is to unclog my toilet or to, fix my HVAC deal or something, right? So I think that is, I like that aspect of where things are. And I
Mhm.
think that's good. Like I'm a pretty conservative guy. I like more of the blue collar root stuff. The
Yeah.
move to Arizona has been great, but I think we all need a little bit more blue jeans, whiskey, cowboy boots, and pickup trucks in our life because the rest of this shit for the last little bit has been kind of screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Do you find so? What would you say are the top risks for your business considering AI? And
The top risk for my business considering AI. Um,
and then conversely, what are the top five opportunities you see that you can leverage AI with your business?
there is you've started to see because I've been kind of diving into what tools are available for me in my business it is that I can create efficiencies through the use of AI. A lot of that is probably consistency and stuff like that in marketing, communication, outreach, publishing, blah 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 blah. Like all of
Mhm.
that stuff is good. The issues that I see some is I'm also seeing AI tools come in. It is that are automating underwriting processes, so
Mhm.
they can at least do the kind of the first pass of underwriting to say whether this is something we should spend more time on, dig in more, so on and so forth. There is a They can do models
Mhm.
and understand models, but AI is still a response driven based upon input. And that can be the collection of billions of points of data it is to deliver that input, but or to deliver that output, but the input still has to be input,
Mhm.
which makes it fallible. Um, On the underwriting stuff, it concerns me to a certain degree that if you go that way and make everything a computer decision, you take out the human element. And as you're underwriting a company, that human element becomes really personal because there are things in every business it is that should tell you you shouldn't do something, but Tony, the owner and operator, knows, has a gut feeling, has been there before and said, I don't give a shit what the model says. This is what we're doing, and it works.
Hmm.
And that going all AI and automating that takes out that human element of grit and desire and willpower and heart. Um, I think folks are moving that way towards trying to automate a lot of that, and it makes it impersonal, and impersonal um, doesn't work. I think that that's a risk in not necessarily my business, but in this business that I think is
Hmm.
happening. Um, I don't know what else, to be honest with you, in my
Yeah,
business from an AI standpoint. But that's one of the ones that's been speaking to me over the last couple of weeks.
interesting. So I guess to close out, what would you say are your top three keys to success?
Top three keys to success is, I think one of the things it is that people do is that they put um, too much weight on somebody else and don't give themselves enough credit at the same time. Right? Is that,
Hmm.
oh man, I saw Tony do this. He's so cool. God Almighty, I can't. Oh, I wish I could do that, but that's probably just not for me. Right? Is that I'm giving you probably a disproportional degree of um, of acumen and success and credibility it is,
Hmm.
while discounting myself at the same time. The thing I think that people should understand is that there is nothing in this world that God has made it is that's okay for Tony, but not okay for Jeremy.
Hmm.
Nothing, whether it's a car, a house, a girlfriend, a life, a lifestyle, a business, whatever's important to you, it wasn't made for somebody else, but not for you.
Right.
That person may just be a little bit further down the road and a little bit further down the path it is to get that than you. So don't misjudge or give a degree of credibility to them that's not to you. They've just been on the path a little bit longer, right? And if you keep down the path, maybe you'll be there too, right? So I think that that's one. I think the other thing is there's that old book called Acres of Diamonds, and it talks about the fact that is the guy it is it's looking for his wealth and his treasure and this kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And he stops looking. He stops looking when he's inches from the finish line. There is one of the things that is that I heard years ago that I've probably repeated enough to call my own is, um, what happens what happens to those guys that is that do nothing, nothing,
Yeah. No.
right? Like if
True.
you don't try, um, if you don't go after it, if you don't do those things, right, you kind of die with that music in you, right? So there's got to be something it is that it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. It's just got to make sense to you. Nobody
Hmm.
else has to see it. But if you see it, then it's worth putting something into. It's worth putting that time into. It's worth going after. Nobody else has to see it. And so I think that those are a couple things there it is that, don't discount yourself. We
Hmm.
do. Everybody does
Yeah.
to a certain degree, and that's a killer. Because if you don't believe in you, why should anybody else? Right? And the other thing is just keep fucking going. Right? Like there's the idea of committed but not attached. Right?
Hmm.
Like I'm committed to the end result. I'm just not attached to the process. Like when I lived in Seattle, I worked downtown Bellevue or downtown Seattle all the time. And when it was time to come home, I was committed to going home and seeing my wife and kids. I just wasn't attached to taking the freeway,
Hmm.
right? Because if there's an accident, I'll just take the back roads or I'll go a different way. I'm still going home.
Yeah.
It may not be the path it is that I thought that I was going to be. And so if you have a goal, if you have something, a business you want to start, a dream you want to do, a place you want to go, or whatever it is that it happens to be committed but not attached. Because oftentimes it doesn't look like what it is that's exactly pictured in your head. But as long as you're still going that same route, you're going to get there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I think, especially in today's social media world, it's easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
It's easy to go look at the other guy and say, wow, that guy's doing amazing. And then just give up. Right.
Yeah. I mean, social media is the representation we want people to believe. Like
Yep.
nobody posts on social media. Dude, I had a shitty day today. I got fired by 5 of my clients. I lost $5 million. My wife won't sleep with me, and my dog bit my ankle.
Yeah.
Have a great fucking Tuesday, guys. Right? Like nobody does that. They're like, hi, I'm here on my yacht. Right? Like, I mean, you and I off camera, we'll talk about it. But you and I know a half a dozen guys in Seattle that the image it is that they purport on social media is all bullshit.
Oh
Like
yeah.
taking pictures in front of these houses and cars. Hey, on my hustle today, motherfucker, I
Yeah.
know where you live. That's not your house. What's wrong with you, right? What's wrong with you? You have hundreds of thousands of followers. I'm like, you're a fool, right? But this is that. Just don't believe any of that shit, dude. It's just that's
Love
dude. It's so funny.
it.
Dude, it's so funny. Oh, right.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show
I
again.
enjoyed it, my man. That was a
Really
lot of
enjoyed
fun.
this, and happy Father's Day. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. Back at you, man.
All right.
All right, my man. We'll talk soon. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for tuning into the show. If you found value in what our guests shared and what we share on the show, please feel free to share with your friends and family. We'd love to see you back here. Thank you again. And you can find us on pretty much every social media channel, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Step into the unscripted arena.